Did something feel off this morning, Leo? Like someone's eyes were on you, but no one was there? That's not paranoia. That's energy. And today's message isn't just a horoscope. It's a divine warning, wrapped in cosmic guidance, tailored just for you. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, where astrology meets soul work. You didn't stumble across this video by accident. The universe led you here for a reason. Maybe it was that subtle nudge in your spirit. That flicker of restlessness you couldn't name. Or maybe it was a whisper from your higher self, saying, "Pay attention." Because today, April 19th, 2025, we stand on a threshold of transformation. The sun is preparing to shift from Aries into Taurus, a movement that grounds fire into form, impulsiveness into structure, and scattered energy into rooted clarity. And in that quiet cosmic shift, strange things begin to stir beneath the surface. You might feel it already. A conversation that felt off. A glance that lingered too long. Compliments that sounded a little too polished. These aren't coincidences, they're cues. Energetic signatures showing you what's real, and what's ready to fall away. This reading is for the Leo who's been sensing that something unseen is orbiting them, not just spiritually, but emotionally. It could be envy. It could be projection. It could be someone who's smiling in your face, while quietly hoping you fail. But here's the real secret. What looks like opposition is actually a mirror for your rising power. Let me say that again. If you feel resistance right now, it's not because you're going backwards, it's because you're leveling up. At Eternal Mindfulness, we believe energy doesn't lie. And neither does divine timing. If you're here, it means you're ready to shed what's false and reclaim what's yours: stability, strength, and self-trust. But before we dive into the reading, I want to thank you, not just for watching, but for showing up for your own growth. Every like, every comment, every subscription doesn't just grow this channel. It expands a community of awakening souls who are ready to live aligned, conscious, and bold. So from the deepest space in my heart, thank you. Your support helps keep this sacred space alive. Now, let's anchor this moment in intention. Drop a sacred number in the comments, any angel number that calls to you. Maybe it's 111 for a fresh start. 333 for divine alignment. 888 for prosperity. Or maybe, it's your birthday, that's your personal code. Let the universe know, I'm listening. Because in this video, we'll uncover not just who might be watching you, but how the universe is protecting, positioning, and preparing you for the next big leap in your journey. Stay with me until the end, Leo. Because what's coming next is going to change everything. There are moments in life when the air feels heavier, when silence carries a strange pressure, and when your senses pick up on something your mind can't explain. Perhaps lately, you've felt like you're being watched, not in a paranoid sense, but as if an unseen presence is hovering nearby. That peculiar feeling, the quiet discomfort that doesn't come from words or actions, is not something to dismiss. It's the language of energy, speaking through intuition, your soul's early warning system gently urging you to pay attention. As we continue from where we left off, this subtle shift in perception isn't random. Astrologically, the sun preparing to move from Aries into Taurus marks a powerful energetic transition. Aries, all fire and impulse, leaves behind its trail of bold intentions and makes way for the grounded, earthy presence of Taurus, a sign that doesn't just shine but sustains. This movement slows us down just enough to feel what's normally buried beneath noise and busyness. In this sacred pause, truths that were once hidden begin to rise to the surface. And that's where you are right now. Something is surfacing. But it's not here to scare you, it's here to show you just how ready you are. When you sense that something's off around you, a strange gaze, a sudden tension, a forced smile, don't doubt yourself. What you're feeling is the intelligence of your intuition, a sacred inner radar attuned not to logic, but to energetic truth. This is not superstition. It's awareness. And right now, awareness is your most important ally. In tarot, this energy is beautifully represented by the High Priestess and the Seven of Swords. The High Priestess teaches us to trust what is unseen, to read between the lines, to sit in stillness and let the truth find us. Meanwhile, the Seven of Swords reflects deception, hidden agendas, or energies that don't match their appearance. Together, they reveal that someone or something in your environment may be watching, not with curiosity, but with a mix of envy, confusion, or even fear of your growing light. But remember, this isn't a warning of danger. It's a sign of expansion. You're being observed because your energy is shifting. And when you begin to rise into your true self, those still tethered to fear or comparison may not know how to hold space for your transformation. That's not your fault. You don't owe anyone your light in doses they find comfortable. You're not meant to shrink just because others haven't yet learned to grow. This is a test, but not one you need to pass with effort or explanation. It's a test of presence, of poise, of knowing who you are even in the face of subtle resistance. You are not here to prove. You are here to be. And that, in itself, is powerful. You may recall a teaching that speaks of inner stillness as the path to insight, that when a lake is calm, it reflects truth. The same applies to you now. Your clarity doesn't come from reacting. It comes from recognizing. So if you feel like someone is watching or doubting you, let that realization soften your gaze rather than harden your heart. Let it be a reminder to center yourself in your truth. After all, your path isn't about being understood, it's about being authentic. And this strange energy surrounding you? It's not a threat. It's a mirror. It's showing you how far you've come, how bright your presence has become, and how deeply the universe believes in your readiness to rise. Sometimes, clarity arrives not through words, but through exhaustion, the quiet kind of tired that comes from giving too much of yourself to the wrong spaces. As a Leo, your warmth is your signature. You have a heart that burns steady, loyal, and bold. You're not just a giver, you're a builder of belonging. People naturally feel safe around you. They're drawn to your strength, your generosity, your ability to lead without demanding, and love without conditions. But this very power can become your vulnerability if you forget that even the sun needs boundaries. What many don't realize is that Leo's fire isn't wild and reckless like Aries, nor is it shifting and unpredictable like Sagittarius. It is the hearth, steady, sustaining, life-giving. But even a hearth can be drained when too many come to it with cold hands and no intention of giving back warmth. You might notice this in those who only check in when they need something. Those who celebrate you only when you're small, or only when you're struggling. but grows silent when your joy expands. The compliments that feel hollow, the support that only shows up when you're down, these are not accidents. They're patterns. Energetically, this is where the lesson begins. In numerology, the number 1 is the initiator, the self-realized leader. It reminds you that standing alone doesn't mean being lonely, it means being rooted. And 8, often misunderstood as just a symbol of wealth, actually teaches mastery over energetic exchange. It says, give, but also protect. Offer, but don't abandon yourself in the process. The combination of these two numbers reflects your path now, one that calls you to step fully into your personal power while guarding your sacred flame. Setting boundaries isn't about creating walls. It's about becoming a clear container for your energy. Like a well-tended temple, your inner world deserves protection. When you continue allowing the presence of those who subtly drain you, you teach your system to normalize depletion. But when you pause, reflect, and reset, you reclaim your rhythm. You remember that peace is not something others give you. It's something you choose and enforce, gently but firmly. There's a wisdom teaching that reminds us, when we hold on too tightly to what no longer supports our growth, we create suffering. Letting go is not rejection, it's returning things to their rightful place. So, if someone dims your joy, questions your worth, or disrupts your peace without ever taking accountability, it may be time to release them. Not in anger, but in compassion, for them, and for yourself. One gentle yet powerful practice is energy journaling. At the end of your day, write down the names of people you interacted with and how your body felt after those moments. Did you feel expansive, supported, grounded? Or did you feel contracted, tired, unseen? Over time, patterns will emerge. They always do. Awareness is the first step toward change. Another helpful act is to give yourself a people detox day. Choose 24 hours to go inward. No texts, no calls, no emotional labor. Just you, your breath, your stillness. It's not selfish. It's soul care. In that space, you'll be surprised how quickly your natural radiance starts to return. The version of you who laughs easily, speaks clearly, and moves from a place of self-respect, that's who you're making room for. If any part of this message is resonating, if someone's name quietly came to mind just now, take that as your sign. You don't need to confront or cut ties dramatically. Sometimes, the most transformative act is simply to stop overgiving, to turn inward, and to remind yourself that your light is not up for negotiation. You don't have to dim it for anyone. You don't have to explain why you're choosing peace. You only have to stand in it. And maybe today is the perfect day to begin. If you feel called, drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose my own light. Not to prove anything. Not to fight anyone. But to quietly declare to the universe, and to yourself, that you're no longer available for what drains you. Only for what honors you. There's a quiet shift that happens when you realize you no longer need to be understood in order to be at peace. You may have noticed lately, Leo, that the more you step into your joy, your purpose, your radiance, the more certain energies around you begin to tense or retreat. It's subtle. A silence that lingers after your good news. A compliment that doesn't quite land. A look that's too quick to mask something underneath. These are not coincidences. They are reflections. But not of your worth, of the places where others are still hurting. Jealousy is a complex energy. It's rarely just about wanting what someone else has. More often, it's a reaction to what someone else represents. Your light, your courage, your refusal to settle. These things shine a spotlight on what others may be struggling to face within themselves. And when people haven't yet made peace with their own inner contradictions, your clarity can feel like confrontation. But here's the truth: you don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. You were not born to carry the weight of their unhealed stories. Leo is ruled by the sun, the celestial body that gives without asking anything in return. But even the sun doesn't apologize for its brilliance. It rises each day with quiet certainty, not to prove anything, but because that is its nature. In the tarot, the sun card speaks of joy, confidence, innocence, and radiant truth. And yet, we sometimes forget that even this card casts a shadow. With every truth revealed, there is something that must be faced. And not everyone is ready to face it. If you felt the sting of envy, if someone close to you seemed to pull away just when you started rising, remember this: their reaction isn't a verdict on your success. It's a mirror showing what remains unresolved in them. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they're still carrying emotional weight they may not even be aware of. And your glow? It unintentionally highlights it. But it is not your responsibility to dim in order to protect their comfort. Compassion doesn't mean collapse. There is a teaching that reminds us, we are each like a lamp in a dark room. We cannot control how others feel when our light reveals what they have kept hidden. But we can choose how we hold our own flame. Do we extinguish it to make the room darker? Or do we let it burn steady, not to burn others, but to guide ourselves, and those who are ready, forward? Choosing to shine rather than prove is one of the most healing decisions you can make. When we try to prove ourselves, we're often still holding on to doubt. But when we simply show up, fully and quietly rooted in who we are, we free ourselves from the cycle of emotional reaction. We return to the center. The real shift happens when we understand, our presence is enough. We don't have to convince anyone. And in truth, those who are meant to walk with us won't need convincing. So if you felt misunderstood, or if you've tried to explain your heart only to feel unheard, take a step back, not to run away, but to realign. Let the silence be a space for you to listen inward. Ask yourself, what part of me still feels like it needs to defend who I've become? And what would it feel like to let that go? If any of this speaks to you, you're not alone. So many of us have walked that tender path between rising and risking rejection. But the path of light is rarely the easy one, only the truest one. If your growth has made others uncomfortable, take it as a sign that you're moving. That you're no longer playing small to stay accepted. You're stepping into something real. And you're doing it with grace. If you've ever been hurt by jealousy or felt unseen by someone who mattered, share this in the comments. I don't need to shout, I only need to be. Not for drama. Not for reaction. But as a quiet declaration that your time of proving is over. You're here to be, and that is more than enough. It's often in the quiet aftermath of emotional clarity, when you've stepped away from what no longer nourishes you, that real opportunity begins to rise. Not as a sudden flash, but as a steady rhythm, a gentle tapping on the door of your awareness. When you release what drains you, even subtly, you create space for alignment to flow in. And Leo, you've just done some of the deepest work. You've stopped apologizing for your light. That changes everything. Now, as energy begins to recalibrate around you, the pathways for financial growth, career expansion, and authentic love are being drawn into your orbit. This isn't about luck. It's about resonance. The moment you start walking with self-worth as your baseline, not as a goal, but as a given, you start attracting the kind of abundance that reflects your evolution. You no longer beg the universe to notice you. You become the version of yourself the universe responds to. Financially, you may soon find an offer, connection, or stream of income presenting itself in a form that feels unusually aligned. It may not come loud or dramatic. In fact, it might appear simple, a message, a new project, a conversation. But trust your gut when something sparks. That flicker of excitement, when paired with peace, is often the signature of a genuine opportunity. Don't second-guess it. Don't wait for permission. The energy that comes after letting go is momentum, and this momentum wants to reward you. Professionally, this is a season for grounded vision. With the sun transitioning into Taurus, the emphasis shifts towards sustainability, not just chasing ideas, but building something with lasting impact. Leo thrives in spaces of expression, leadership, and creative guidance. You're not meant to blend in. You're meant to inspire, to elevate, to create environments where others feel more alive just by being near your energy. If you've been questioning your path, now is a powerful time to return to what feels most natural, not what pleases others, but what awakens you. There's a teaching that says the right path is not necessarily the easiest, but it always brings a sense of inner coherence. Your steps begin to line up with your spirit. You stop needing external validation because what you're doing feels true, even if it's quiet, even if no one claps right away. That's when mastery begins. In relationships, the same rule applies. Let go of connections that keep you guessing. You deserve the kind of love that feels like coming home to yourself. Not love that asks you to perform, shape-shift, or settle for being half-seen. The right relationship will never confuse you about your worth. It will reflect it. It will bring peace, depth, and a sense of expansion. You'll know you're in the right energy when your nervous system feels safe and your heart feels open at the same time. To support this phase of growth, pay attention to the symbols around you. The golden hue, not just as a color, but as a frequency, aligns with your natural state of royalty and warmth. The sunflower, always turning toward the light, mirrors your instinct to rise. And the lion, of course, your eternal guide, steady, proud, alert. Let these be more than symbols. Let them be reminders. If you're feeling the shift, if a part of you already knows that what's coming is better than what you've released, take a moment to affirm that. Speak it, write it, feel it. And if it feels right, drop this into the comments. I am worthy. I am ready. That's not just a statement. It's an activation. A signal to yourself and the universe that you're no longer waiting, you're receiving. Sometimes clarity doesn't arrive in loud revelations, but in quiet awareness, a soft recognition that who you've been is ready to evolve into who you're becoming. After moving through resistance, emotional boundaries, and deep energetic shifts, there's a spaciousness that begins to form around you. And on a day like April 19th, when cosmic energy itself is turning a page, that spaciousness becomes sacred. It becomes an opening. Not one to rush through, but to honor. Because this is where the next version of your life begins, not from outside pressure, but from inner permission. What makes this moment so powerful isn't that something dramatic is happening, but that you are different now. Your inner compass feels more attuned, your tolerance for what's misaligned has decreased, and your willingness to return to your center is stronger than it's ever been. That's not coincidence. That's growth. Real, grounded growth. And it's the kind that doesn't need validation. It shows itself in how peaceful you feel when you stop trying to be what you're not. You may sense this shift in your nervous system first, a quiet refusal to carry what you once tolerated. You may notice that certain habits, people, or thoughts feel heavier now, not because they've changed, but because you have. When your energy rises, your environment begins to ask for rebalancing. That's natural. Just like nature releases leaves in autumn to make space for spring, your inner life is shedding what's outdated to make room for what's essential. There's a timeless truth that says nothing new can fully bloom in a field that hasn't been cleared. And so this is your moment to gently, but intentionally, clear. Not out of frustration or urgency, but out of reverence. For yourself. For the light that's trying to reach you. For the part of you that's whispering, it's okay to let go now. We've learned what we needed. We're ready for something better. And maybe that's the only question that matters right now. What are you still holding on to that no longer holds you back, but holds you down? Is it a version of yourself you've outgrown? A relationship that only sees parts of you? An expectation that feels more like a cage than a container? Whoever or whatever comes to mind in this moment, trust that it's surfacing for a reason. Clarity is not always comfortable, but it is always kind. Freedom of the soul doesn't always look like escape. Sometimes, it looks like acceptance. Like waking up and realizing you no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to be chosen by those who can't even see you clearly. You no longer need to earn rest, or joy, or ease. You're allowed to choose it. You're allowed to soften into your life without asking for permission. That's not indulgence, that's alignment. Imagine now, Leo walking through the quiet golden light of morning. No noise. No spotlight. Just presence. The kind of presence that makes the world pause, not because it demands attention, but because it radiates truth. That's the power you're stepping into. Not the power of dominance, but of dignity. Not control, but clarity. Not reaction, but rootedness. And it's here that your new chapter begins. Not with a dramatic leap, but with a steady exhale. A conscious releasing. A whispered yes to what's next. So today, ask yourself, gently, honestly, what must I release so my light has room to rise? Then let yourself be surprised by the answer. Let yourself feel the calm that follows. You don't have to rush to fill the space that opens. Just stay with it. Trust that what's coming will find you when the field is ready. Because it will. And because now, you are. Sometimes, the loudest roar isn't the one that shakes the ground, it's the calm, grounded presence that makes everything around it fall silent. And Leo, that's exactly where you are right now. You've walked through the noise. You felt the weight of misunderstanding, envy, and emotional complexity. You've chosen not to react with fire, but with focus. And in that choice, you've reclaimed something sacred, your power. You're no longer the version of yourself who needed to explain, to prove, or to be chosen by the wrong people. You've outgrown that skin, not in anger, but in clarity. And clarity is a form of freedom. You now understand that your worth isn't defined by applause, it's anchored in presence. So let this be your quiet revolution, to show up fully as yourself, not because the world finally approves, but because you finally do. As you move forward from here, I invite you to practice something simple, yet life-changing. Live as if the blessings you seek have already arrived. Speak as someone who's already safe. Walk like someone who's already trusted by life. Rest like someone who knows they're supported. You don't need to chase what's meant for you. You only need to become the version of yourself who's ready to receive it. Everything in today's message, from setting energetic boundaries, to rising above envy, to opening to financial flow and soul-led relationships, is a gentle reminder that you're not here to stay small. You're here to rise. And rising doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it just means releasing what's in the way. So I'll leave you with a few questions, not to answer right away, but to carry with you as the energy continues to unfold. What would shift if you stopped waiting for permission to shine? Who could you become if you no longer made yourself smaller for the sake of harmony? And what are you ready to receive now that you've remembered your own worth? If anything in this video resonated, even a single sentence, take that as a sign that you were meant to hear it. And if your heart feels called, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What part of this message landed deepest for you? What have you been holding on to that you now feel ready to release? And what number, what sacred code, is calling to you today? Maybe it's 444 for protection, or 555 for change, or 717 for the path of spiritual alignment. Whatever it is, share it below. Let it be your way of anchoring this new energy in. And if this video arrived at just the right moment for you, I want you to know, that's not random. That's alignment. Thank you for being here, for listening, for choosing yourself. Every time you engage with this space, with a like, a comment, or by subscribing, you're not just supporting a channel. You're nurturing a collective space where truth, healing, and empowerment are welcome. From my heart to yours, thank you. You are the reason Eternal Mindfulness continues to grow, not just as a platform, but as a sanctuary for the soul. And believe me, Leo, you'll want to stay with us for what's coming next, because the energy you're walking into is nothing short of magnificent. Now go ahead, lift your chin, straighten your crown, and walk forward, not because you need to be seen, but because you're finally seeing yourself. And that changes everything.